Only sort of. Here's James Harden.
Do you still want the Rockets to trade you? And if so, why?
Right now, I'm just focused on being here. Today was good. Yesterday felt really good being out there. First time since the bubble. Haven't really had an opportunity to do a lot of 5-on-5 work, but for my first time being out there, I think I felt pretty good. So,
James, what was the point that you were trying to get across when you went to Atlanta and Vegas when training camp was starting?
I was just training.
What were you training for?
The start of the NBA season.
How did going to Atlanta and Vegas help you there when the Rockets were starting training camp in Houston?
Just my personal trainers.
I mean, honestly, I love that he's like, I haven't had many opportunities to get 5-on-5 training. I wonder why. Hey, Chris Broussard is joining us now. Broussard, a lot to get to here. We've had a lot of comments all morning. We're going to let you jump in. How telling was James Harden's first media session since his trade request?
Well, first of all, he looked like a defensive tackle with those arms. I mean, that was impressive. I know he looked out of shape in his first game, but that was impressive. Look, I got to be honest here. If I'm the Rockets, I like the fact that he said, right now, I'm just focused on being here. That was about the best thing I could have heard if I'm the Rockets, aside from him rescinding his trade request. It looks like he's intent, at least for the time being, on playing hard, playing well, and helping the Rockets win games. So that was good. I also thought it was telling that he said he hasn't talked with GM Raphael Stone. That, to me, is emblematic of the lack of respect that James Harden has for this organization. That plus the fact that he went to party in Las Vegas and Atlanta without a mask, posted it all over social media while the team is at training camp. So this, and I know we're gonna get to this, but whenever you let somebody run roughshod over the organization, this is inevitably what happens. They lose all respect for you. And James Harden, to me, has absolutely no respect for that Rockets organization. And it showed in some of his comments yesterday. It showed in a little bit of his behavior. And I know we'll get into that in a moment.
Yeah, but Chris, I didn't think anything was good coming from that press conference. As a player, you have to be there. That's why it's a big deal when Kyrie, he wrote his statement and sent it in, and he didn't attend the press conference. James Harden not speaking the other day. Like, it's a big deal because that relationship between the media and the league, that's what drives the revenue. So that's why guys get fined if they don't sit up there and talk to the media. James didn't say anything. This is what it's going to be like until he's traded. It's going to be uncomfortable. We've been hearing that word. The Rockets threw that out, a couple months ago. We're willing to go deep into the season in an uncomfortable position. Well, get ready, because this is what it is. He's not going to give you anything. All those conversations that he's having with his agent and his mom and some of his teammates, he's not going to disclose any of that in these press conferences because he just loses. Well, James, why did Westbrook leave? Why did he want to leave? Talk to us about the culture. Why do you want to get traded? You don't win as a player in those situations. James Harden, this is his only play left. He's there. His number one asset is his game. So right now, he has to figure out, how do I make it uncomfortable for everyone in this organization every single day so I can get what I want? He still wants out of Houston. He wants to go to New York. He wants to go to Brooklyn. He wants to go to Philly. And now he's saying Miami. So this is how it's going to be, Jenna, for a long time until they trade him.
All right, well, guys, I want to bring up a report that Broussard, you alluded to, about the ongoing situation between Harden and the Rockets. The report saying the Rockets' culture could be pretty much summed up as whatever James wants, which is what you were talking about, including taking trips on off days, excused absences from practice. Nick, bring in here. Did the Rockets give James Harden just too much power over the years?
No. And the Rockets culture worked. And if James Harden is traded today, the James Harden era was a success. Oh, Nick, how can you say that? They never won a title. Okay, so since James Harden got there, no team has won more games, and they're the only team to make the playoffs every year. But, Nick, they never won a title. All right, Broussard, I want to go back to the first NBA Finals you covered in 1980. I think it was 40 years ago. And I'm just going to give you a quick list of names, Broussard. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Bird, Moses Malone, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan, Akeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, want to make sure I'm not missing anybody, Kobe Bryant, Dirk Nowitzki, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. That's all your champions with two exceptions. Kawhi in 2019 against a Warriors team that was decimated by injury, and the anomalous 04 Pistons. Point being, the problem for the Rockets was not their culture. It was they didn't have a top 20 player in the history of the league. And guess what? You need one to win the title. That's how it works. And I think I said Dirk. I meant to say Dirk if I forgot him, but Dirk obviously would be on that list of top 20 players in the history of the league. Okay, good. That's the problem. It's not culture. It's that Harden is a great player, and he's not good enough. You know why? Same reason Chuck wasn't good enough, same reason Malone wasn't good enough, same reason a lot of guys weren't good enough. Because it's not the other sports, Broussard. If you don't have a pantheon guy, you don't win championships in this league. So the Rockets did as well as they could have. Like, what's the year they were supposed to win the title?
Yeah, I totally disagree. Really quickly. Look, man, talent only takes you so far. I mean, I think there's a lot of validity behind what you just said, Nick. But as a player, you have to do the little things right. That's why LeBron James is so special. That's why Kobe Bryant is so special. You think if James Harden was in the locker room with Kobe, he would allow James Harden to come late? You think James Harden would be allowed to come to a film session 20, 30 minutes late? Those are some of the things that's coming out now. I don't know. Come on, Jordan, man. This guy is prolific. He's one of the best scorers ever. Come on, look, how do you be so dynamic and so electrifying in the regular season? Then you get to the postseason and you implode. It's because of the details. It's because of the little things. So I totally disagree. Now, how do you go? It's the little things. That's how I feel. As a player, I just think you have to do the little things right, and those are the guys that go from good to great, and they separate themselves from everybody else.
Go ahead, Broussard.
Yeah, I agree with Brandon. I'm sorry, and we understand superstars get perks, but they let this go way too far. You're crossing the line when you're consistently late for team flights, when you're consistently late for film sessions, when you are missing practices on off days because you went to Vegas or somewhere else to party. That's a problem. And I keep hearing, well, this is the NBA. This is how it is. If this is how it is, if this is accepted behavior, why was Russell Westbrook so upset? Why was Russell Westbrook so upset and said, let's watch the film without James Harden? This is a guy he was childhood friends with, and he wanted out. This went too far. The Clippers, we saw that was a big part of their downfall. Why were the other Clippers upset about all the special treatment Kawhi and Paul George got? When you look at Miami, when LeBron was there and won his first championships, Nick, stuff like this was not allowed to go on. Look at San Antonio. You think stuff like this went on in San Antonio? You think this goes on in New England with Belichick?
Okay, no, but so here's the problem. This is where we do an autopsy and we misdiagnose the cause of death. If I'm a lifelong smoker, it's terrible for me. But if I get shot, that's what killed me. We can say these things for the Rockets were bad, and it's indicative of James Harden's lack of seriousness. But Wildes, the irony is not lost on me that the player who was most appalled by this, meaning the guy who was most diametrically opposed, was Russell Westbrook. What do he and James Harden have in common? Same playoff resume. Why? Because they're great, but they're not great enough. We can't say Russ's approach is the right one, James is the wrong one. Can't be a champion with James Harden's approach. I show you champion Russell Westbrook. No, I understand. Of course, Kobe and Michael and LeBron, but that's wild. These are the greatest players in the history of the league. I get it. James Harden is a great player. He's not good enough. He's not
You
good
got to
enough.
do the
Like,
little
that's-
things right.
It's not because he's
You
at the
got to
strip
do the little
clubs.
things right.
What?
It
So
shows
here's the thing. There's a lot of MVP.
Nick.
Well, I want to hear. Go ahead.
No, well, I'll throw it to you. I'll throw it to you, Broussard. There's a lot of MVPs that haven't won a championship. Steve Nash didn't win a championship. Harden hasn't won a championship. Russ hasn't won a championship. And there's other guys like Damian Lillard hasn't won a championship. Not MVP, but people view him as a great player. But none of those guys have had historic playoff meltdowns, whether it's going ice cold or setting a turnover record. And James Harden has. So I think, Nick, while I agree with you, it might be a bridge too far to say, like, here's the simple causality of his playoff breakdowns. But at the same time, to say that it has nothing to do with it, and he's just on par with, like, Steve Nash's tenure or Dame's tenure in Portland, where like, hey, what are you going to do? You just ran into some great teams. I think that is not nuanced enough when you look at the entire picture.
Nick,
Go
when
ahead,
professionalism, when even a tiny degree of professionalism is not demanded off the court, it can spill onto the court, and you only see it in those few moments when you face adversity. With the Clippers, it didn't show up. The lack of chemistry and all that didn't show up until those games with Denver in that second round when they really needed to be together, and they weren't.
Yeah.
James Harden, unprofessional, not